you probably don't need to see me. I'm going to go ahead and take off that so you get more view of what's going on with this. Now, so I talk about color washes a lot. Do you guys paint with Lynn Andrews at all?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So all of you have like her Lynn Andrews floater brushes. You don't have to have it, but this is what I use when I float. I always tell people you just want something that's kind of like a juicy brush. So anything that holds a little bit more water is fine for some of these color washes. And the reason I do the color washes is, you can paint these pieces really, you can just throw the paint on, do some shading, do some highlighting, and call it done. But the way that I tend to get all this dimension is by layering colors, and I'm sure you guys do a lot of it. I know both of you are very seasoned, experienced painters, but that's why I kind of go the extra mile and I do the color washes and I do the layering as opposed to just throwing the colors on and doing it kind of straightforward. But it's up to you. Choose whatever colors you want. If you want to follow my colors, you can. And when we get to this bit, that Chris Howard had not painted this kit. So this is her design that I cut out. And she had not painted this when I did it. So I didn't have any reference. I painted it a certain way. And so she envisioned this bunny as digging into a basket. Well, when I saw it, it looked like it was out in the garden. So I painted a stone wall. So you can certainly do this as a wall, or you could do it as a basket. And do you guys have a preference? Do you want to do it as the stone wall, or do you want to try to do it as a basket?
The wall myself.
I like the wall.
Okay, so we're going to go ahead as planned, because it just felt like it was outside. And because with the basket, I envision it being higher with the handle and all of that. So we're going to just go ahead with kind of the wall look. Okay, so go ahead and grab your white peach. And the other reason I like to do either a roller or sponging on some of this is it gives you that little texture. It doesn't create a huge texture, but it gives you a little bit of texture on your pieces. If you prefer brushing and you don't want to hassle with sponging, that's fine. But I'm going to go ahead and sponge. And you can, on this bit, you can use a craft sponge or you can use a makeup sponge. And go ahead and cover the whole thing. You don't need to do this area because it's going to be covered with your little feet, but just go ahead and start applying your sponging. And actually this up here will be covered by your tail, so you just need to concentrate on the areas here. And if you have a heat tool, that will speed along the process. So just get down 2 to 3 coats. And again, this is the white peach. So I was trying to go with more pastel-y, lighter colors with this. I didn't want something that was strongly in your face. So so feel free to grab your heat tools. So Virginia, you're painting along, and Karen, is it Karen? Did I pronounce that right?
Yeah, exactly. I'm just watching today.
Okay.
I just didn't have the energy to get it all put together.
Oh, Oh. Yeah, it's so frustrating. There's definitely been some bad respiratory things going around.
Right. And that was what this was, a respiratory flu.
Ugh.
It was not the throwing up kind.
Yeah. My mom got it really bad. She got it from my husband. And she got it really bad, and it took her 2 months to get over it.
So I just have no energy. I
Yeah.
feel like I've been knocked down.
Yeah, and that's what she was saying too. It was really really rough. And of course, I felt really guilty. So it's like, I'm sorry my husband got you sick. So it's so dangerous now when that happens. And she had to go in for a procedure. She had a Watchman installed for her AFib, and she had to come back for a process just to make sure everything was in the right position in her heart. And for a while there, because she was so sick, we didn't know if she was going to be able to, even make the appointment. But anyway, yeah, it's not been an easy cold flu season.
Well, when I used to teach school, I never got sick. So I guess my days of avoiding all that are over.
Oh, man. Yeah, that's not easy. Okay. So that's 2 coats, and I'm going to go ahead and do a third, but it's hard to see now, but you can see that you get that nice little light texture from the sponging that you just can't get if you're using a brush. So, okay, third coat of white peach. So Virginia, did all of your pieces in that last package arrive safely, I hope?
It did. It did. Thank you.
Okay, phew.
Now, for the sponge,
Yeah.
I noticed, most people use the makeup, but I really like this type of sponge. It covers better for me.
Well, it also leaves more texture, and like I said later in the pattern, when we do the sky, you can't easily do that with a makeup sponge because it's too tight, it's too dense.
Right.
So it's better if you go ahead and buy some of these craft sponges. Some of them are kind of questionable though. They're really flat and they don't pop up. So I'm going to move that aside, and I'm going to if you want to get your stone wall out, since everything's kind of wet on the bunny. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. So for that, we're going to do the same process and 2 to 3 coats of the warm white. And it doesn't need to be, it probably can go with just 2 because we're going to be putting plaster, or we're going to be putting the crackle or gesso over the top of it. And as I said, gesso works just fine. It isn't going to crack the same way. So probably 2 coats sponge on warm white. Yeah, those craft sponges are pretty reasonably priced. I think there was a while during COVID that they couldn't even get them in. I guess they were coming, because most of them come out of China, of course. So, and again, we're sponging this because 2 reasons. You get this kind of light texture, but the other reason is when you brush, it definitely wants to brush in the paint into the lines. So it keeps a little bit more of the engraved lines if you sponge or if you roll. And also color washes help to protect these scored lines as well when you're doing these laser cut pieces. So these are all kind of little tricks that I've learned since I've started doing the laser cut. So I've had a machine, I guess it's been 2.5 years now that I've been doing the laser cutting. So it's faster to do the brushing, but I just prefer to do it this way. My dryer has a bit of a death rattle. It's pretty old. So one thing I mentioned when you were prepping the round is to do the back. If you have a piece that's a little bit bigger, MDF likes to warp, and this piece is already starting to warp. However, it's going to be glued down, so it shouldn't be much of an issue. Sometimes what I'll do is like I'll seal the back of it or spray it just to keep that from happening. But for the wall, I think it's okay because it is going to be glued down. But you can add paint here or seal it just to create moisture on both sides. So, because I exclusively use MDF to cut my pieces. And I think that, I'm trying to remember, what is the other material that people use for cutting? Oh gosh, I'm having a blank. Not birch wood. Anyway, it does warp, but not as badly as MDF. But MDF gives you cleaner lines, and it has a really substantial kind of feel to it. So I always like the way things look and feel with the MDF. Okay, so that's 2 coats. And you can really make, this sponge can really make the paint bubble if that's what you want, like if you want to get a little bit more texture. So, okay, so I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to return to my bunny body. Go back over there. Okay, I always have to follow my instructions. It's the same as you guys. My memory is like, okay, what did I do here? What color did I use? Sorry, I have to stop and have some tea once in a while. All right, so we are going to shade the bunny with cactus flower. And you can see where the paws are going to go. So you're going to be shading around this little engraved area. I can see it here. It doesn't show up very well, and you should be able to see it on your piece too. And you can pop out the tail if you want. And the tail, there is a way that the tail goes. Like, you would think it's all symmetrical, but if you spin the tail around, you'll see that there's a specific way that it fits into these little scalloped areas. I think I probably overshot it. Okay, I think that's it. So when you shade, we're going to hold that in place, but we're going to just move it up a smidge to shade. But I'm gonna move that off just for now, and I'm going to concentrate on going around the paw area and the edges. So again, that's cactus flower, and it's going to be a little strong, but we're going to send that back with some color washes. So, because cactus flower on its own is definitely pops, not as much as I think the new color is Coral Buzz. That one's got some real brightness to it. So like I said, just for now, if you do the edges, if there's any time that I go off screen, just shout. So when I shade, I'm going to go around twice, but when I shade around the paws, I'm going to go over the line and then come back when it's dry and then go up to the line, because sometimes if the paw is too close to the shading, once you glue the paw down, you may lose some of your shading, and you want to make sure it's blended there and that you don't have a really funky line. So you kind of want to blend it as you do it, because of the way that when you put the paw down, if you're just a smidge off, it might show the line, or the shading might look unnatural. So I kind of take it really roughly, not really caring if I'm inside a line or not. And I broaden it out on the second go round. So it always looks kind of messy like this, but a lot of it's going to be covered up with the paws. I'm more specific and detailed on the edges. So I'm going to pop out my paws just to have a look at them. And with the paws, there's also a left and a right paw. So the little toe is out here. So that's the left. Wait, depends on which way you're looking at the left paw. So it helps me to know when I'm putting the paw in there how the shading's going to look. So I just kind of keep referring back to it. So how's the weather wherever you guys are? Have you started to see spring now? I guess Virginia, you probably.
Right. Our daffodils are all blooming and the red buds blooming. It's budding out.
Spring is coming. Okay.
Right. It's only 65 today, but it's
yeah, nice.
there's rain and there's a rain shower coming this afternoon, anytime.
Okay. Yeah, we're pretty sleepy for a while here in Colorado. It takes a while for things to wake up. So we're having beautiful weather, but everything's dead.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it first happens overnight. It's like,
yeah, true.
It's still, we had a snowstorm and everybody's saying, oh my gosh, when is it ever going to be spring? And then like a week later, things are popping out of the ground and such.
Yeah. Okay, so now I'm gonna put this tail into place, but I'm just gonna kind of lift it a little bit. So just a smidge. So that I'm gonna put down my initial marker with my shading, and the tail's going to go a little bit further down than this, but again, you have to be careful because you can end up, when you're shading, you can end up with a really sharp shade line, and when you glue the pieces together, then the shading line doesn't look right. So what I tend to do is I put that down, and that's going to be higher than where I want it to be, and then I'm going to extend the shade into the body a little bit. And all these laser cut pieces are like this, where you kind of need to shade around the pieces that you're going to glue on. and kind of make sure that you blend the shade line so that you don't have an extreme line that's left. So it's a pretty loosey-goosey shade. You don't need to make it clean and special, just kind of a little broadened out. So a number of people who do these pieces don't really do much shading, but I love to do shading. I think it makes the pieces look so much better if you can do some shading and highlighting. But a lot of people who are doing these laser cut kits, they're not coming from a painting background. They're coming more from a crafting background. Okay. So Virginia, you're keeping up with me, I'm sure, right?
I'm trying. I'm trying.
Okay.
But that's okay. That's okay.
So then you can kind of look to see, whoops, see this thing, if you turn it, you have to, before you glue it down, make sure you get it correct. See, that's not correct. That's correct. Okay. Nope. I'll have to play with that later. But I have enough shading. I can see right here I've got a little issue. So right there, I'm not 100% sure I have the tail turned the right way. So do take time before you glue it down. Make sure it's in the right position. And actually we'll have to do that when we're highlighting and shading, because of course we want to highlight at the top of the tail and shade at the bottom. So you need to know which is which. Okay. Oh, I'm going to get the other paw. So I just want to see how that's looking. So the paw is easy because you have the little lines, and you know which foot is which. Let me go out a little bit. You know which foot is left and which one is right. So the shading there is fine. So I'll just set that aside. I'm going to try to line this up. I don't know. I had it correct.
You
Okay.
could put a little mark on it after you get it correct.
That's a really smart
The
idea.
edges, and then you'd know.
That is a really smart idea. Okay. I'm going to do it on the back. Okay. So that's correct now.
Then you don't have to do it over and over.
Yep. That is a really smart idea. So, for instance, I can see now that I got it turned correctly, the shading is not quite right here and there. Okay, so I'm going to go back in. And you could almost, because you don't see what's underneath, you can almost just add in a little fill. But you don't want to have this sharp line showing through. So you can do a shade going the opposite direction but up against the shade you had. And that will help to fill any holes that might be there, or any super sharp edges of the shade. Okay. So I did put 2 little pencil marks on the back. Sometimes my brain is not engaged, especially on a Monday. Oh my goodness. Just not quite there this morning. Not enough caffeine. Okay, so now if your piece is dry and not too hot, we're going to be sending that cactus flower back by adding in the sugared peach color wash. So, Virginia, you said you did not have the sugared peach?
No, I couldn't find my sugar peach, so I'm just using a highlight flesh. It's a little peachy color.
Okay. And if the sugared peach is really light, because
Right.
you could even use antique white with a touch of the color that you're using. Like if you wanted to tone down the color you're using, you could add like a little bit of antique white or warm white. Okay, so we're going to do a color wash of the sugared peach. And we're just doing it with water. So I always have this like specimen bottle filled with water. And get your juicy brush, whichever one you want to use. I mean, you can use something like a oval wash or a flat brush or this. Since it's a bigger area, I might use a bigger brush. And before you do this, you want to get your paper towels. So we can either use paper towel to blend the color wash, or we can use a stiff bristled brush and blend it with the brush. It's up to you. The paper towel will pull up more paint, but it also will leave behind an interesting pattern. I tend to, if I use a paper towel, I use the side that has the smaller pattern on it, because most paper towels have two sides, two patterns, and I use the side that has a slightly smaller pattern. Okay, so make sure I've got that. Okay, so of course you only need to put this in the area that is showing and not hidden behind the paws or the tail. So the look, as you know from doing this before, is very different if you use your bristle brush. That you'll keep more of the color wash, but it's up to you on how you want to do that. I think I'm going to just go ahead and use the brush this time. Oh, I'm getting hair. I get hair in all my pieces, unfortunately, because I have a very hairy dog. And sometimes you can just let this dry as is, but it's to keep, the water marks from occurring. You want to blend the paint and not have it heavy in one little area. So after you do that, you need to see whether you think that's quieted the shading enough. See, I think I took I did another color wash because that's pretty strong. So I'm going to go ahead and do a second color wash. Basically, you do the color wash until you achieve, the coverage that you want. And, if you like the coral color coming through strong, then use less of a color wash. If you want it more muted, apply more color wash. I keep losing my tools. Okay. Got another hair. Yikes. Okay. Okay. So, this one is still, my first one is still quite a bit lighter, but I did my shades probably not as intense as this time, but that happens. Any art piece is going to look different every time you do it. Okay, so you can set that aside, and now we're going to move to the bunny tail. And again, you'll want to pay attention to what is your top and bottom when we get ready to shade and highlight. So we're going to continue with the sugared peach, or whatever color that you have, and we're going to go ahead and sponge with the sugared peach all over the tail.
Kathy, are you participating in the Lori Speltz thing this weekend again?
Yes, I am. I'm going to be switching hats a little bit and doing that. The demo that I'm doing is more mixed media. But yes, and we've got a lot of demos and sales, more than we usually have. So it's going to be pretty busy. But yeah, I'm gonna demo this piece.
Oh, neat. Love it.
So let me move out. I guess that's as far as I can go out. Yeah, so it's this is kind of where I started in my career, was in mixed media. So I really, really, really feel at home when I'm doing it. So it's kind of strange because I have two very different styles. I do country on one hand and, rustic stuff and things like this and three-dimensional little characters, and then I turn around and I do mixed media, and it's like very different.
No, I agree. It's fun to do different different types of things. I mean, I just love to do Carol Spawn, and her kind of stuff, and that sort of mixed media and wild. Mm-hmm. And then I like to do Lynn Andrews and her little, gentle little.
I love Lynn Andrews, and I love Erica Joanne's stuff as well, and of course Tracy and Sandy. I do their stuff. I also do Lori's stuff, but I don't have as much time to do hers anymore.
Well, the thing about Lori's stuff is I appreciate it and I think it's fun, but I don't want to do it because I'm not interested in all the little animals and things. So I like watching her for the techniques.
Yes.
I love her stencils.
I'm
and I did paint with her for a long time. I mean, back in the, when we first started doing stuff online. That was the best thing that ever happened.
I agree.
It was they came out of the pandemic because I had to go to Hoot in Ohio or, stuff. One time I went all the way out to where were we? Can't even remember now. But anyway, to the conventions, so that you get to paint with these people. Mm-hmm. And then otherwise you wouldn't even know about them.
Absolutely. And I unfortunately only found all of it after COVID. And I was creating on my own in a vacuum. I didn't even realize or think, I could have done that. And, but it has really changed everything. Because I wouldn't be able to reach people to teach.
Right. And Liz Stowe with Cottage Caboodle,
Yeah.
she really took it to a new level too.
Yeah.
Started all these groups and everything. The only group that I've been in from the beginning is Tracy's. And then the others I've kind of gone in and out of. But now I'm also watching a couple of the women who do the real simple things because I teach a class at where I live in senior living. And so I'm looking for things, that are real simple
Yes.
because they don't know how to float and how to do these things. And
Yeah.
I've tried teaching, but that's not something you do in one lesson.
No, and a lot of these laser kits you can do that way too, which is good.
I don't have the money for the laser.
No, right, to share it.
So I'm looking at the things, where it's, where I can teach them to paint something from scratch, but
Right.
they're just following step by step. And they are so thrilled when it turns out because they say, I can't draw, I can't do this. And I said, just watch and just do what I'm doing. And they're just thrilled because we painted a candle with poinsettias all around the bottom and everything, and they're like, I can't believe I did that.
All
If
right.
you break it down into steps, they can do it.
Yes, yeah, I agree. Okay, now just to tie the color in, I'm just doing a color wash of the sugared peach, just to kind of subtly bring everything in, and using a paper towel on that. Okay. So now we're going to lighten it up a little bit by doing a color wash of warm white. So just
You could do that. You could do that even a little more with texture instead of so to look fluffy.
Yes. Yeah, you could. You could. So a little bit of gesso texture paste or even crackle paste.
Or just make your paints thicker and just go instead of a thin coat.
Mm-hmm. That is true. Okay, so warm white color wash. Or if you want to do it more textured, you can go that route too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's just like so many different ways to do these pieces. And I love it. I love it when people do add their own personal touch to it. I think that's one reason I really like Tracy's classes, because she lets you do that.
Mm-hmm. She makes it look so easy.
Well, and you know what? If you follow what she's saying, it's
I know. It's not, yeah.
It's
no,
like you were talking about with your senior ladies. It's the same. If you go step by step, it's like, oh, well, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be.
Right. But you still have to have some skills. You can't just paint her stuff.
Yeah, and I had done a complimentary piece to the one I just showed you. Let's see if I can get it off here. Got it hanging on the door. So this is similar colors to the one that I just showed you.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the one that I did. And so that's Tracy's tulip, and then I cut it on the laser. So, and then this is resin.
So dimensional.
And yeah, that's the stuff I love. And I think I like these characters because back in the early days, when I first started crafting in the 90s, like so many people, I started with ceramics. So now it's like they're wood, but it's a similar kind of process. I was living in Malaysia at the time, and I had always worked, and all of a sudden I couldn't work living overseas. So I was like, what am I going to do with my time? And I started doing ceramics. Okay, so now to lighten it up some more, grab your titanium white and a dry brush and a paper towel, and go ahead and add some dimension. And on this, you can, instead of doing the dry brush, back and forth, horizontal, vertically, you can, if you want, you can keep it wetter, and you can stipple. So I might actually do that.
And that would give a texture.
Yeah. So I'm just going to kind of do some stippling in here. But you could just do the regular standard dry brush as well to lighten it. So whichever you prefer. Because we are going to come back and splatter, and so if you do just regular traditional dry brushing, the splatter will show up more, but it doesn't matter. Whichever way you want to do it. Okay. And if you have burlap, if you grab that to shade with. Okay, burlap. There it is. So it's a very light shade. If you want the shade to be darker, you can use Spawn or something similar. Sometimes I'll shade with both if I want to have a little variance. I like shading with two colors. So double check what is your top. So there's my two top are marked here. So the bottom 5 you'll be shading. So like I said, that's a very light shade. And if it isn't dark enough for you, come back with Fawn or similar. And reinforce it if you wish. I'm going to go back to second coat. Yeah, if you guys like that, those little angels, spread the word. So, like I said, I'm not going to do a Zoom for those. Those are going to be in Facebook, but I will have those for sale. So, Karen, do you go out to Net? Is that close enough for you to do that trip? Or?
Oh, I've never been to Net.
Oh.
I've been to Hoot 3 times, and I've been to Kansas. That's where we went for the last national, the Decorative Painters Association. It was their last convention. And my friend and I came from Virginia all the way out there, and we volunteered, I can't believe we did this, to set up a table for decorations. So here we were going with placemats and table decorations and centerpiece and
wow,
and everything, and we had it all with us out there and did a table for the convention, for the dinner. So that was fun.
yeah. Well,
was all sunflowers and stuff, so that some people did the Wizard of Oz being Kansas and stuff, and sunflowers and stuff. I bought big round mats and then did sunflowers on half, like they were off half of it, and they were all different. And then we found little boxes, little basket looking things, and we made them like little picnic baskets and stuff, and it was fun.
Yeah. Well, I've only been to a couple of conventions, and I love NET. So,
if I don't get too old too quick, I can maybe still go.
Yeah, I think it's going to be really popular this year because, like, it's the first year that Sandy McTeer is doing it, and then Tracy, I convinced her to go back, so she's going to be there. So, because she was going to try to do Chattanooga, and then she got so sick, she had to cancel last year. So, it'd be wonderful to finally meet her in person.
Look, this is your first year at NET too, teaching, isn't it?
No, they did. They did accept one of my class. I had one class last year, and
that's right. Yeah.
Not enough people knew me, so hopefully this year more people know me. I've been teaching since the 90s, but because I was overseas and everything, and in a different medium, nobody knew who I was last year. So this year, I hope. So I've got 2 classes. We'll see.
Yeah.
We will see. So, Virginia, you saw I floated white at the top. You can go stronger than this. And and you kind of want to blend your shading where it meets a little bit. I probably didn't do it enough. But so now we're going to do a splatter of warm white onto the bunny tail. And then after that dries, we'll splatter the titanium white. Yeah, I'm pretty excited about it. I look forward to seeing everybody because the first time I went to NET was 3 years ago, and I didn't know anybody. So now it's really different because when I meet people, I'd be like, "Oh my gosh, there you are! Oh my gosh!"
Yeah.
So now I actually know who people are. So. Because I came from mixed media and paper crafting, and so no one really knew who I was. Okay, so if you don't want to make a complete mess, you can, of course, put like a paper towel underneath when you splatter.
So we're splattering with warm white or with
warm white,
snow white?
Warm white first, and then after dry it, and then splatter with the titanium snow white.
Okay.
And if it's too goopy, like I got some bigger spots, you can lightly dab with a paper towel if you want, or leave it as it is and go with it. Yeah, I like to go to NET as well because my son lives in Boston. It gives me an excuse to go see him. We definitely do not see that boy enough. So, and he's our only one. So, I did that pretty wet, so the spots are very big. Okay, there you go. So, I think, let's see. Oh, I see. Okay. So on the bunny body, the reason my shading looked a little bit different is I went back over the coral shading with burlap because I was wondering, it looked a little sharp. It still looked pretty strong on the coral, so I'm going to come back with a little bit on the bunny body with a shade of burlap. So anyway, grab my shading brush and some burlap. Yeah, because the tone is very, very pinkish, and the burlap kind of helps to send it back a little bit and make it a little bit more neutral. I knew there was something else I had done. See, I gotta read my directions. And this is just kind of a quick and fast little shade that's not supposed to be perfect. It's just to add a little bit of something extra and make it a little bit more neutral. I probably do slightly more choppier shading than other people, but it's just what I like to do. I know a lot of people do much longer strokes, and I'm like, chop, 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 chop. I think Sandy McTeer does a little bit more choppier strokes as well. And then you get other people and they do these long, beautiful shade strokes, and nope, that's not me.
Like Tracy when she goes down the center of a leaf.
Oh yeah, she's too perfect. She's too good.
Yeah.
Like I'm with Sandy. I'm like I don't mind getting my finger in there if my shading brush isn't doing what I want it to do. Let's just use my finger, you know. Okay, yeah, that makes a difference. It really makes everything a little bit more neutral. I knew there was something because it wasn't quite looking like what I had done before. And you know, you do these patterns and then it's like 2.5 months later you teach the class, or 3 months later. It's like, oh, got to revisit that. What did I do? Okay, so I think that's pretty much the tail, and the body is pretty much done. So now we're going to move on to, actually, we're going to go back to the stone wall because that crackle paste, we want it to dry a little bit on its own. Sometimes you get better crackles. If you force dry this, it doesn't always crackle the way you want. Virginia, did you get crackle paste? I can't remember if you had any. Oops. I think you're muted. We missed what you were saying.
I'm sorry, I have a dog that sometimes barks.
Oh,
I did get
same here.
crackle paste.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I forgot to mention, I also have a dog who's very, very, very noisy, and if there's a delivery van, he will bark. So apologies in advance. He's quite annoying when he does that. Okay. So
I had to move and plug in my iPad. It was losing steam.
oh no. All right. So get whatever you use for palette knife. The plastic ones are fine. I really like my silicone one because it's so flexible. Is the lighting okay on that for you guys, or is it washed out? Because this is what it's like without my lamp, and that's with my lamp. Does it matter to you guys, or is it okay?
That's
good.
fine for me.
Okay.
Looks good.
Okay. All right. So we're just gonna be stonemasons now, and we're gonna go ahead and take the crackle paste. And like I said, you want to try to avoid the crevices. If you go into the crevices, pull out some kind of little tool, like I've got a old ceramic tool, that will allow you to get into the crevices if you end up filling it in, because you really don't want to fill in those little cracks. So grab your crackle paste, and you don't want to be too thick. You're basically just trying to add in a small amount of texture. So something like that. The other thing about this silicone brush is it actually is the width of these stone bricks or whatever, these stone pieces. So it's like, it's the perfect shape. And with crackle paste, I don't think you're supposed to try to avoid going back over and over the area, because it will start to crackle almost immediately. And if you go back over it, you'll ruin that effect. So this crackle paste is pretty forgiving, though. It's one of the better ones I've used over the years. So this is a very easy, simple process. And the other thing about it is it accepts paint differently than just when we do a color wash. It will act differently on the crackle area than it would if it was just paint. It soaks it up a little differently. And of course, I just can't help myself, since I do mixed media. I have to add in all kinds of mediums and textures and stenciling. And I just can't help myself. Okay, I did pretty well at keeping it out of the crevices, except right here, and I'm not even going to mess with it. I'm going to just leave it there. So I'm going to give it a real quick heat to get it going. And then I'm going to set it aside. And before we do the color wash, it has to be completely dry. But I want to give it a chance to do some of the crackling naturally. Okay. So the crackle paste is really, really fantastic if you're doing any kind of mixed media stuff too. It's just so good. Alrighty. So, we'll move back to the bunny paws. And we are returning to sponging, and we're doing burlap over the top of them. When I first did it, I did these guys in fawn, and it was so much, it didn't seem like it was that much of a darker color, but it didn't look right. So I changed it to burlap. So sponge burlap. And you're leaving the little heart shapes in the paw pads in for now, but we will take them out after this. But right now we want everything to be burlap. And we need 2 to 3 coats. I'm trying to see. Yeah, 2 to 3 coats, depending on your coverage. Virginia, did you say you were going to NET this year?
I am. I usually go to NET in Oklahoma, and I'm going to Portland this year.
Oh,
First
wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, Portland looks really interesting. I might have to try going to see.
Well, it's a small one, but I hadn't been. I have a lot of friends that went last year, and they enjoyed it. So,
Yeah, it's getting bigger each year, though. I mean,
yes,
yeah, it's not as small as it once was. So, yeah, I was going to go to OKC, but when they only accepted one of my classes, because I was going to take 2 classes and I wanted to teach 2 classes. That's what I want to do at NET. Take 2, teach 2. And
right.
When OKC only took 1, because they had so many people submit, so many teachers, I just couldn't really make it economically feasible. Whereas in NET, even if they had accepted 1, I still would visit my son, so it would still be worth doing. But OKC, so I ended up pulling out. So I know you guys are going to have tons of fun. There's so many people, so many people are going, but oh well. It'd be
I
nice.
know some people were disappointed in OKC with the selections, and I only take maybe 3 to 4 classes, and
Same here.
that's okay.
Yeah, I'm the same. I mean,
But if you're teaching, you need to make it viable for you.
Yeah, for me, I think it's a sweet spot. Take 2, teach 2. Because I will always take classes. Because I love to take classes as well as teach them. And of course, that gives me a chance to have a class with Lynn Andrews, and then I want to have a class with Tracy.
Yes.
Up at NET. Okay, so I did 3 coats, and when it's dry enough, you can pop the pieces out. So when you think of top and bottom, and I mentioned this in the pattern, remember now that the top is the heel and the bottom is the toes because of the direction that the bunny is. When I first did this, I forgot the bunny was hanging upside down. And so I flipped that and I was like, oh, yeah, that ain't going to work. So, so pop the pieces out and try to remember or set them aside. I think the pieces are pretty much the same, but sometimes Chris will do, like, the pads on the left foot might be slightly bigger, slightly smaller, whatever, than the right side. So you can group them so that you remember which is left and which is right. All right, so just set those aside somewhere. And then make sure that the paws are really dry. And so we're going to use sugared peach or whatever equivalent that you have to dry brush, just to add in a little bit of color into this very neutral tone that we've got going on. So again, that sugared peach. And you could go white peach. Sugared peach is very light. I'm going to start with a little bit. I'm just curious. I do this all the time. I'm going to add in a little white peach with the dry brushing first. Just want to see what it looks like. And even that's very light. And so you'll do the white peach or the sugared peach or the flesh or whatever color you have kind of all over. And then when we come back with the lighter warm white, we'll concentrate that more towards the top. So one thing on these laser cut pieces that I love when you're dry brushing is when you kind of drag the brush over the edges, you get this interesting dry brush effect. So I always like to do that. Yeah, so the sugared peach is a little bit lighter than this. I kind of like this white peach. So anyway, let's just see how this is starting to look. Yeah. So you can make them, however, if you want your feet to be a little bit lighter, dry brush more. So that's up to you. And if you want a more intense lightness, you can have a medium dry brush as opposed to a very dry brush. Okay. I think that's good. So then, like I said, you want to go ahead and dry brush towards the top using warm white. So if at any time you need to have a break, just let me know or sneak off, whichever you prefer.
Kathy, can I see the close-up of your pads?
The ones that are done, the finished piece?
The feet that you're doing right now. I'm sorry.
Okay. So let me show you that. So it's not really picking up some of the dry brushing. So that's the finished.
Okay. Thank you.
Uh-huh. So now I have the warm white. And like I said, I'm going to concentrate that more towards the top, the heels, which are the top, since Bunny is upside down, digging around. Yeah, and if you want the feet lighter, just do more dry brushing until you get the right tone. Okay. So then I am going to use Fawn to shade at the bottom. If you want to be slightly darker of a shade, you can use Mississippi Mud. Or you can use both. Start with the lighter and then go with the darker. Okay, so where did I put my Fawn? There it is. And of course, if you want to use darker shades, you can. You can go to an espresso or asphaltum. Sometimes I just like that subtle hint of a shade. I don't want something that's like totally in my face. So I put a little bit underneath where the heart pad is as well. I always find it interesting that not everybody likes Zoom class. So I know people work as well, but if I had done this in the Facebook group, it's like people get really shy. It's kind of cute. I'm like,
how many did you have signed up?
There were 6 total. So it wasn't a big class to begin with, but
Right.
still.
Well, I certainly planned to paint with you. It just didn't work that way.
Well, I'm so glad that you're here, though, keeping us company, because otherwise, Virginia and I were just going to kind of look at each other like, well, here we are. Okay. Okay. Now, so that's pretty much all you need to do on the feet. When you get ready to put everything together, like if you want your tones to be slightly different, you can do more dry brushing. So I kind of like to see where I'm going, how the colors are coming together. So I'll bring these pieces over and just kind of check them out and see if I like the effect. If I'm liking where the tones are and whether or not I feel like I need something lighter or darker shade. So anyway, I'm kind of happy with that, but you can see how you feel about it. Okay. I'm worried my stone wall is going to get all messed up. I have a limited number of places I can put things while I'm working here. Okay, so we're going to move on to the pads. Okay, that one goes there. And you'll have to figure out after we do the color washes on here, these little paw pads, what's at the top and what's at the bottom, because you have to shade. And so we'll pop them back into the pads to see. With the heart, we know that the tip is the highlight and the curved area down here is the shade. Okay. So now we're going to come back with Vintage Pink. That is one of my favorite colors of all. I use it all the time. And we're going to lightly sponge. We don't want to completely lose the burlap that's underneath. So it's kind of hard to see, but there's still a little bit of the burlap coming through. It just makes it kind of interesting. So don't do like a huge solid sponge. Kind of leave it a little airy. And again, that's Vintage Pink. And if you want more of the vintage pink to show and less of the burlap, just adjust your sponging until you get the right amount. Now this is when leaving the things in the frame would be good, but then you would mess up your paws. So some people use double-sided tape and tape these down on their surface so that they don't move around. I'm more of a cowboy. I'm like, yeah, whatever happens, happens. You know, I'll make it work. If they're moving around, that's fine. So I'm going to do another round of the sponging. I purposely did the first round kind of light so that I didn't completely obliterate the burlap underneath. So now I need to come back and be a little bit more solid. And then once it's really dry, you want to make sure it's really dry, you can dry brush with some cotton candy, which will lighten it up a little bit. So, cotton candy. And you can, instead of dry brushing, you also can continue with the sponging. I'm looking at my instructions, and on the pads, I don't talk about adding in the shading, but we will want to shade, and we can do some highlighting as well. It's just not in the instructions. So, like I said, either dry brush or sponge on cotton candy. Or you can also stipple. And use the dry brush, especially across the tops of the hearts, the tip of the heart, to make it lighter, the lighter bit. So I also want to figure out if there's only one way for these little pads to go in here. So I'm trying to just figure out what is the top and the bottom, because I didn't use the sensible thing of using my pencil to tell me. And actually, you can go ahead and put them back in, because if you get a little bit of highlight on the pad itself, that's fine. On the paw itself, it's fine. So I'm going to put those back in. So just add the color until you're happy with it. Okay. Again, that was cotton candy. Only having two people, it definitely gets we're a little quiet. I'm not really good at filling space as well. I tend to be very quiet when I paint, so it's like, oh, I gotta fill space. Okay. So whenever you're happy with the way that looks, And we will add a float, a little bit of the fawn. I know this one goes in here. Sometimes after you've painted these, they get a little bit wonky because of the moisture. Yep. Trying to get it back in there. Virginia, what kind of dog do you have?
A Shih Tzu.
Oh, okay. That's what our neighbors have. They have 2 of them. From where I am sitting in my art room, I always see them taking their dogs out, so for a potty break. Okay, so I'm going to do a little bit of shading with the fawn. And if that's a little light, you can also, well, I guess we'll keep it to the fawn. If you used fawn here, then I would use fawn on the pads. If you want it to reinforce everything with slightly darker colors, you can come back with Mississippi mud or similar. But if you don't necessarily want a darker shade, just stick to the fawn. I have to message my husband 1 second here. Okay. Okay, so that's about what it looks like. But like I said, if you want darker, you can go darker. I kept everything pretty light and pastelish. So there's the original. Okay. So that's it for those pieces. You can set them aside. And let's see how our stone wall is feeling. It's pretty dry. It dries pretty quick. Okay. So for the stone wall, if Virginia, is your stone wall dry?
No, I have thick in places. But go ahead.
Yeah, it won't make. Yeah, it's not going to make much difference. But we can actually move to making clouds because the stone wall is kind of independent of everything. Or we can do the carrot tops. So we'll come back to the stone wall because since everything is pieced together, there's no rush. So we'll move to the carrots and the carrot tops.
Okay.
So I'm going to see if I can use them in my frame. In my pop out so they don't move around. So the carrot tops, I put a lot more effort into the carrot tops than I did the carrots themselves. So it's like, oh my gosh, I got all these instructions about these teeny tiny carrot tops. So we're going to use New Leaf or something similar. The reason I like these two colors is that they're bright, but you can use any greens, any two greens in your arsenal. It doesn't really matter. So, and you can use any yellow. You don't have to use baby duck. Okay. So we are traditionally painting, which is like, oh my gosh, I can't believe she's not dry brushing or color washing. But we're just painting on a bit of the New Leaf. It's so bad that I have to actually hope and poke for a proper brush to do this, because I don't just do traditional base coating that often. But because of the way that these are in the pop outs, you almost have to use a brush, because otherwise you'd get it into the orange carrot area. So 2 or 3 coats of your chosen green, and I'm using New Leaf. I did especially bright colors on the carrots, because like the carrots, you could have easily used like I don't know, spiced pumpkin or canyon orange or one of those colors, and I went scarlet. So I just wanted them to pop.
I wondered about that, Scarlet. I thought, oh, this will be interesting.
And you certainly don't have to use scarlet.
No.
Yeah. I use a lot more colors. I know some artists tend to gravitate to certain colors, and it helps their students because their students don't have to worry about owning every single deco art color that's out there. And I'm really bad, because I like playing around with colors a lot, and I use a huge range of the deco art colors. Okay. Okay.
Kathy, I'm trying to spotlight you, and I keep getting Karen's ceiling. I don't know what's going on.
You can't get me?
Okay, I got you now, but every so often I keep getting Karen's.
Yeah,
Karen.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm trying to remember how to spotlight, like where I just moved to the speaker. Let me see. There's a button to do that, and let me see. Because normally I'm not used to, like when I've taught before other decorative groups have hosted me, and so I haven't had to deal with this. And there is a way to change it to speaker, and I'm not sure. Let me see, view. So,
It might be in that gallery thing.
oh, for some reason that Karen, you're actually listed as the speaker. That is interesting.
Mm.
Oh, okay.
That's
You're the one with the little green box around it on mine.
But every time you talk, though,
it's going to Karen. And,
yes, yeah.
And I don't know how to.
It's not doing that on mine.
Hmm.
Kathy is highlighted.
Yeah, and unfortunately, the speaker is coming up as you. That is so weird, and I'm not 100% sure now how to change that. Yeah, so. Do you know?
That's okay. I'll just keep switching back and forth.
Well, no, that's very frustrating to do that. I'm not 100% sure.
Okay, if you hit the gallery view, and then you can do the speaker view, and when you get the speaker view, it's just you.
No, it isn't for us though. Yeah, it's really strange.
That's okay. I'm comfortable. That's okay.
Yeah. Well, it's something that I need to know for the next time I do this. Very interesting. You know, you would think that it would know that I was the speaker. Okay. Let's see. It's showing me as the host, but for some reason it is switching over. Let me see. There's one other place here. Let me look. Yeah, if I had Carolyn Swazi, I can't pronounce her last name, but if I had her with me, she'd fix it. She always does Lynn Andrews. She always is the hostess. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, she's good.
Well, I am going to have to work that one out because that's very annoying if you can't zoom in to what I'm doing.
Well, I have you now zoomed in, but every so often it'll revert
switch
back. To Karen. Sorry about that pronunciation.
You're all doing fine. I've had to correct people all my life.
Yeah. I know when I was living in Malaysia that I ran a magazine. I was the editor of a magazine, and my graphic art person was Karen, and I just constantly got it wrong. It's just like, no, that's the way it's pronounced in all these European countries. Because I think that the U.S. is kind of really different on the way they pronounce Karen. I think a lot of European countries it is Karen.
Correct. When I go traveling around, people see my name and they pronounce it Karen.
Yeah.
Even the Spanish countries.
Yeah, and I was wondering about that too because my son's been going out with a young girl, Karen, but he's calling her Karen, but she's from Ecuador. I bet any money that he's supposed to be calling her Karen. So I'll have to ask him how she prefers to have her name, because I think in South America it's more Karen, not Karen.
Yeah. Yeah, I had to go to Europe before I found anything with my name on it, that was just mass produced.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, and I'm not sure about the spelling of her name either. If she uses the E or the I. Okay, so use whatever yellow you want. I'm using baby duck. And you're just going to add in some light strokes with the baby duck in the direction that you would have, vertically, angled vertically, like a leaf or a carrot top. So just kind of rough little lines. Nothing special. It's supposed to be primitive. Definitely not a masterpiece. Unless you want it to be very refined and special, but it's supposed to be a little bit rustic. So who is that artist? Is it Grandma Moses that would do the very kind of primitive work?
Mm-hmm.
So we just want to channel her, Don't be perfect. And in fact, I came and I did a whole bunch of stuff to it. So you can grab like your Mississippi mud. I don't have this in the directions, but you can add in some Mississippi mud lines in here as well. Yeah, Mississippi mud is kind of an interesting color because it does have this sort of little bit of grayness to it. And you could have used like a rake brush for this, too, if you had wanted. I think what we'll do before we do the dry brushing, because at some point we want to pop these out so that we can dry brush across the top. So go ahead and grab scarlet or whatever color you want to use. So the scarlet. And you're going to paint the scarlet. Oh, it says actually, paint the scarlet with, use a brush, not a sponge, for the scarlet. Okay. And it will need 2 to 3 coats depending on your coverage. My brush was very wet, so that's probably going to require 3 coats on that one. One thing that I do before I glue everything together, and especially like if I'm gluing things together and adding bows or embellishments or anything, I usually try to seal everything before I glue everything. So it just makes it easier to seal it before you glue it.
Do you spray it or do you brush it? seal?
I am a sprayer, but I use these. Whoops! I use these products. So that's what I tend to do. So I final fix them, and then I will use the natural glass spray. But I don't always. Sometimes I just use the final fix. And those don't have any fumes. You don't have to take them outside to spray them, but you can, I suggest you seal with what you're comfortable using. So, I always get inconsistent results when I brush seal. So, I'm one of those people who I've ruined pieces after I've spent hours and hours painting, and I brush the sealer on, and anyway, so that's what I use. Now I'm going to use a little bit of this Scarlet, just a little, to add in some strokes into my carrot tops. Just here and there, not as dominant as what we've already had in. You don't have to. And my baby duck is getting lost, so I may come back and add in some more baby duck as well. Okay, so I definitely need at least 2 coats. This one may need 3. Yeah, I think the term that I need to find is spotlight on the video. I need to find where it says spotlight. So after I get this next coat of orange or scarlet on here, I'm going to look. So unfortunately, sometimes with the laser cut kits, you do get some of the tannins leaching out. And I can see some of that with carrots, but it's leaching out in an area where you would probably be shading anyway. So it's like, okay. I was going to see if I can find this thing that says spotlight. Yep. Host tools. Look at that. Ah, okay. No, I'm not seeing it. Host tools, share screen, chat, start video. Yeah, I don't know. Well, that is just really, really weird. Yeah, I don't know. I'm going to have to check into that. My apologies, guys. I'm sorry, because when you're trying to get up close and see what I'm doing and you're not able to isolate me, I don't know.
Well, you're isolated. That's all I have on my screen is you.
Yeah, you're muted right now, Virginia.
Oh.
I see Karen every so often. And when she was talking, I saw her.
And when you go up to the corner where it says view in the upper right corner, you're not able so if you select speaker, then you just get Karen. So up in the upper right, it says view.
I'm on my iPad, so I don't see view.
How about where it's got the gallery? And then hit the gallery.
I do.
And then you see 3 things and it says speaker only. And then I hit that and then I got her.
No, I
Oh, drat. Okay, well.
But that's okay.
All right.
Yeah, because I'm on my iPad also, and that's how I got there.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm computer illiterate unless
All right.
I do something,
I'll have to.
well.
I'll have to look. I'll have to look at my iPad when we're off, just to see what we're missing, what there is. I'll let you know if I figure it out. It won't help right now, though. Okay.
Oh, that's okay.
Okay, so you can do a bit of shading with Mississippi Mud. So, actually, let's wait on the shading. Let's do the sponge and stuff first on the carrots before we do the shading. So, you can use a dry brush stippler, or you can sponge lightly, whichever you prefer. And it's okay if you go a little bit into the carrot tops. So the first thing we're going to use is coral blush or something similar. Oops. I have coral shell. Where's my coral blush? I did not pull it. See if I can grab it right quick. Otherwise, I'm going to be using these other colors. Ah, there it is. Okay. Which certainly you can do. Like, you can use coral or you can use coral blush. It doesn't matter. Coral cloud, coral blush. So the coral is probably a little bit more oranger, and the coral blush has a little bit more blush in it. So any of those colors. And then we're just going to lightly sponge in the carrot area. Let me show you the final, because it's a combination of colors to get this look. So like I went a little heavy accidentally there with the sponge. So then after we do this, then the scarlet isn't quite so bright and in your face, but it still gives that nice vibrant undertone to the piece. And then grab baby duck or whatever yellow you've chosen to use, and you can just use your dirty sponge and you're gonna, it doesn't matter too much, but like on the edges, I'm feeling the edges being slightly lighter, but I guess it doesn't really matter. So however you want to do the sponging. And you can see when you're sponging, you kind of need to use your palette to sponge off some of it before you bring it over to the carrots. Otherwise, you might get really big blobs of yellow instead of these light little sponge marks. And again, you could try a stippling brush if you wanted. For whatever reason, my carrots feel a little bit more yellow on the originals, but they're always going to look a little different. So you can dry that, and you can add in a little bit of shading along the lines on the carrots. What are the lines on the carrots called? These little marks. I don't know what they're called. And then underneath the carrot top. So, run it down the sides if you want. Just a really light-handed shade here and there. I always have to spin everything around when I'm shading. And you can do this with a shader. I mean, you can add in lines with a liner as well if you're more comfortable. It really doesn't matter. Because again, these are supposed to be very primitive carrots. Not doing fine art today. Some would say I'm never doing fine art. So that's pretty much it. I wanted them to be kind of speckled and, have this kind of feel to it. I mean, you could come back with dry brushing if you wanted in certain areas, but it isn't required. Just kind of want them to look primitive. So we're going to go back to the carrot tops, and I like Irish moss, but any of the greens, the light greens that have a bit of yellow in it, and make sure your carrots are dry, and then you can pop them out. Excuse me. Okay. So you grab a dry brush and your Irish moss. And if you're using the same dry brush you were earlier, but you've washed it, make sure it's nice and dried off. So, let me see. So we don't want our lines to look quite so in your face. So we're going to use some dry brushing to kind of cover it up. And again, the brightest part is at the top. So you're kind of dragging your dry brush from the top down, going in the motion and direction that the carrot tops would be. And you're also using this Irish moss to help tone down some of the stripes that you've put in. So I'm trying to hide some of these marks down here so they're not quite so in your face. So I'm trying to blend it a little bit. It doesn't take much, as you can see. Okay, then with your dirty brush and the yellow or the baby duck, if you're using baby duck, you want to go ahead and add that to your dry brush. So again, it's your dirty brush. Wipe it off pretty good. So now you have a chartreuse. And you're just concentrating on the tippy tops. So you're dragging it across the top, like so. You're not pulling this color into the body of the carrot tops. And that's pretty much it on the carrots. So you can repeat if you want it to be lighter. You can go back over when it's dry. If you want it to be greener, you can come back with the Irish moss. And voila! Carrots done. How did that work for you, Virginia? Did it work okay?
It did. I might redo them, but I'm keeping up.
Why might you redo them? What happened with them?
I'm not pleased with my lines.
Oh, okay.
So I might just repaint it. I mean, it's good practice. So, but I love the scarlet pumpkin.
Yeah.
I mean, I do.
Yeah. It's one of those colors that not a lot of people use because, like I said, a lot of teachers are trying to make it easy so we don't have to buy all these different colors. So scarlet gets overlooked, and it's a really interesting orangey red orange. So
Right.
all right, so we'll leave those to the side, and so. Do you guys need to take a break, or do you want to push on?
I would like a break.
Sounds good.
And I could.
Sounds good. That's fine. Okie dokie. Well, I'm gonna pause the recording. And if you guys come back at, so it's 5 after now. Do you want a 10-minute break? Is that enough or you need more?
And it's fine.
Okay, so 15 after whatever hour it is with you. All right, I'm going to go back to spotlighting that, and then I'm going to take myself off since you don't need to see me while I'm painting. Okay, so votes. Are we doing the wall first, or are we doing the sky?
I think mine is dry.
Okay, so we'll go ahead and do the wall.
I'd be glad to watch either.
Okay. All right. So, we're going to dirty this up. I mean, some people always like having, really bright colors and everything and don't like dirtying up some of this stuff. But in order to get some of the crackles and stuff to show, you have to do that. You need to go ahead and add a color. So I'm using Mississippi Mud. Now, you have two options. I do a color wash also of, cotton candy, which you don't have to do because that's going to add a pinkish tone to it. So you can see there's a bit of a pinkish tone in that. But whichever color wash you start with, if you start with the Mississippi Mud, that's going to settle into the cracks. If you start with the cotton candy, that's going to settle into the cracks. So one will be a little bit more dominant. And if you don't like the the pink tone, then you don't need to do the cotton candy. My directions say do the Mississippi Mud first, but I'm going to do it in reverse right now just because I want to see what it looks like. You can do either Mississippi Mud or the cotton candy because we are going to be doing both. And you want to have your paper towel ready to lay over the top. So I've just done another inky, watery wash. And again, if you don't want the wall to have any pink tones in it, skip this and just do the Mississippi Mud. And then use your paper towel and lightly dab, blot. So you can see, maybe, my camera's not focusing as easily as that, but the pink, the cotton candy has gone into those crevices. So if you had started with the Mississippi Mud, that would be the primary color in the background. But I'm going to kind of mix it up. I'm going to move to the Mississippi Mud now, and I may go back with some pink. This is the way I do mixed media. It isn't always the same way each time, and I really like to mix up my approach to how I do this. So I'm using my dirty brush. So I've got some of the cotton candy in there. Like I said, I just kind of play around with this. And I don't always do it the same way each time. I know when you're teaching, you're supposed to do it the same way each time. I like to give people who are in the class an opportunity to try different things and to find what makes them happy. So I give you a lot of variations on how you can do things because I want you to experiment and play around with it. And I've always taught that way because in mixed media, that's really the way you want to teach mixed media. It has to come from your heart and your brain and your creativity. So I try to give everybody a lot of freedom and latitude.
So you don't put the paper towel when you put after you do the Mississippi mud?
You could. I liked the way it was looking, so I went and I did not. I liked the way it was pooling, where it was pooling, so I decided not to. I told you I'm very inconsistent.
But that's okay.
It's like if I see it and I like the way that it's looking, I don't mess with it. And you kind of have to judge whether or not you're going to get too much water in one area or another, and if you're going to get those watermarks. And if you feel like, oh, I kind of like the way that it's puddling here and there, then you can just kind of leave it. So you can see with that crackle. And I think the thing about the Mississippi mud, it's going to dominate anyway. So if you like this kind of beigey pink, you can stop there. If you want it, I came back with more pink on that one. And I think I actually like, this is a little bit more refined. Let me zoom out a little bit so you can see both of them together. So I kind of like my wall this time. It's a little bit more refined, but you could go with another coat of cotton candy if you want it to make it, but it's going to make it a little bit more pinker. So anyway, and you can come back after you shade. If you decide after you put the shading down you want more pink, you can do that too. So we're using two different colors to shade, both the burlap and the Mississippi mud, starting with the burlap. And that's going to be lighter. And if that's enough shading for you, you don't need to come back with the Mississippi mud. Because again, we're trying to keep everything kind of pastel. So burlap is very light. I can't believe I used burlap. Let me see. That seems very light for shading. Let me see. So the other one is fawn. So I think between burlap, fawn, and Mississippi mud, if you want to just start shading, you're going to be doing all the edges around the cracks. And again, I'm one of these people, I like multiple colors when shading. So that's the fawn. And then I'll show you what the burlap looks like. That's the burlap, so that's very light. And then the Mississippi mud's going to be a lot stronger. So like after you do shading with fawn or burlap, you can see if you want to come back with a little bit of the Mississippi mud, but that's going to be a lot stronger. And you're not really kind of thinking about light source with this shading. You're just shading in and around all of the cracks. I think I like the fawn the best. So if you see the difference, once I add in the Mississippi mud, there's a big difference. So it depends on how kind of light and pastel you want it, or if you want it to be a little bit darker. Oh, uh-oh, it's my dog. Let Unfortunately, when he barks, he bellows. He's very loud.
Yeah, I can't hear him, Kathy.
You didn't hear him? Oh my goodness.
No, unless I'm going deaf, I can't hear him.
Oh,
I couldn't either.
oh, that's good. That's good to know. Wow. I guess my microphone, which is attached to my laptop, is pretty selective. You know, it has a narrow range on it. I'm really liking the fawn on this. Really, really liking it. Okay. So for grins, if I put in a bit of the Mississippi mud here and there maybe, but not everywhere. So I don't really want to put in much more Mississippi mud. Okay, so it is a stone wall, and I like it the way it is. However, like if you wanted it to be whiter, you could use warm white or titanium with a dry brush and like go over the center part of the stone to make the center parts pop a little bit more. So that that's just up to you. I'm going to keep it as it is, but that is kind of an option if you wanted to lighten that up.
Did you go over the top and the bottom also?
I did a little bit. You know, it's kind of a sporadic shade because I didn't want it to be too uniform. So.
Okay.
But like if I get out a dry brush and some warm white, I'll just show you what it looks like. Like you can make it pinker by doing another color wash of cotton candy. You know, you can play with it to get it to how you like it. I'm just curious if I do a little this dry brush warm white is not in the instructions. I'm just trying this as an option to see what it looks like. Okay. It's not making a huge amount of difference. And I think if you do too much dry brushing, you may lose some of the crackle effect that you get. Okay, I'm calling that done. But yeah, you can shade top, bottom, edges, just kind of sporadically and not overly uniform in the look. So that went pretty fast. Stone wall. We built a wall. We built a wall in 5 minutes.
Wow.
And again, you know, it's the kind of thing if you did something like this again, where you had a stone wall or a basket. The basket, is pretty easy, and I had some ideas on how you could do the basket if you wanted to. Okay. So we'll go ahead and we're going to move to the little flowers, I think. And then after we do the flowers, we're going to do the clouds. All right. So get your little pop out here. These won't take any time at all to do these. So you can stipple or sponge white peach or similar. White peach or what was the other one? Yeah, white peach, as opposed to sugared peach, because the white peach just has a little bit more color to it. And grab one of your sponges and just sponge over the whole flower. And this will take 2 to 3 coats to get it solid. So a second coat of white peach. So again, this is very primitive. You're not trying to do a masterpiece here, so we're not even going to do any shading on these. Just gonna make them different colors. So now, like I said, you have cotton candy, cactus flower, vintage pink, coral blush. Just you want to go ahead and use a stippler instead of a sponge, and it's like we did the carrots. So you end up getting this kind of speckled, spotted, create new words, look. And you can do, try to make each flower look a little different in color. Or you can make them all the same. It doesn't matter. I say that a lot. It's like, whatever you want to do is fine. I don't care. Make them gray if you want. I don't care. All right. So just use any combination of those colors. And, come back and try to make them sort of speckled. And you can go right over the centers because we're going to come back and add in a dot of yellow. Baby duck. I was like, brain freeze here. Baby duck.
Time to stop. You just gotten too long. I'm going to have to leave in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
I have another appointment.
Okay.
And I will watch it, and you'll just be on your home page, right?
Well, no, because I will only send this video to people who subscribe. So I will be emailing you
Okay. All right.
Yeah, so thank you. It was wonderful chatting with you and having a chance to get to know you. So I hope you do one of the classes in the future, and we will see you next time.
It was
Okay.
nice meeting you.
You take
Thank
care,
you.
Karen. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Okay. And then there were two.
Ooh, yeah.
Oh gosh. I'm still not very well known.
Oh, I think you are. Every time we're in a group, I'm in a Zoom group, I talk about you and
Aw.
stuff. And
Thank you.
so,
Yeah. Okay, so just however you want these to look, and then whenever you are at a point you like it, stop. And then you can use the end of a brush, or you can brush in the baby duck, however you want to put the yellow into the centers. I was thinking too, you could use like little gems or pearls or whatever. However,
oh, that would be nice. Yeah.
yeah, if you do that, you kind of feel like you might need to add that in other places, and I don't know. But it might be kind of nice with some rhinestones or pearls or something. And
Yeah, you have the dots in the feet, so you could add those or glitter them. You know, I'm all about glitter too.
Yeah.
So, well, you can play with these flowers. So
Yeah.
I'm going to stop and do them later too, see what I want.
Yeah. Exactly. But they're so simple and they're so fast. They just
Right, yeah.
they don't take any time at all to do something with them. Okay, so we're going to move to the clouds. Let me get my piece. Okay. And the clouds turned out so wonderful when I did them the first time, and I know they just never, nothing ever turns out the same, when you do it.
No, it doesn't.
Okay. So, so the first clouds, I did the base of the clouds with a sponge and cotton candy. And I did them in 3 little clusters. So your carrots are going to go here. So here, and this is mostly obscured. So, but you can put the clouds, wherever your sponge lands. So start with cotton candy.
Cotton candy, okay.
Yeah. I need to get rid of some of this. Okay, cotton candy. Okay, so the first cloud I'm going to do is up over here, and I do want the cloud to go off because the one over here is kind of not centered, but it's not going off the edge. But then this one is going off the edge, and that one will go off that way. And that helps. Like if you ended up doing 3 little clusters that weren't going off the edge, then they're trapped. It's like,
Okay.
little clouds, we want out, we want out. So really lightly to start with when your sponge is very wet. And this is going to lay down your shape. So this one is off this hole here. Okay, and like I said, this one is really going a lot into the carrot area. Bring it up a little bit so it shows around the carrots a little bit. Okay. And then the other one is, it's about here. And I'm going to kind of keep this one not going off the edge, so it's a little different than the other two. Okay, so that's your basic shape of your clouds. And now that you did that, you have more freedom. You know where your clouds are going to go, so you can come and start layering colors, but make sure you dry before you introduce the next color, because you don't want them to end up mixing. You want them to be separate colors. So the next color is warm white. And you can get a new sponge, or you can use your dirty sponge. If you use your dirty sponge, you're going to get more of a mixed color. Okay, so we're going to take the warm white back over some of the same areas. Try to be as light as you can when it's super wet. And in fact, if you want some consistency amongst the clouds, I move the sponge around a little bit, and then as it dries, you're getting kind of a more consistent amount of paint. Whereas if you did all of this when it was wet and heavy, and then this is going to be lighter, it's going to look a lot more uneven. So
Okay.
I did that one with the dirty sponge, and now I think I'm gonna use the warm white on the clean side of the sponge, because it did pick up some of that pinkish tone. And then maybe when you come back with more paint, start on the right side instead of the left side, or in the middle, so that you're getting a little bit, so you're not having one cloud that's really heavy in color. Okay, don't like the way that's working. Let me go over here. Okay. And as your warm white sponge is kind of drying, you want to start going around a little bit. Don't press too hard. So this is so that our clouds aren't like little clusters, that you have wispiness around the clouds. It's not a trapped cluster here and a trapped cluster there. So you get a little bit of a hazy effect going on. So the margins of the clouds are not quite so sharp. And so that's what that one looked like. If you feel like you want them to be a little bit more solid, you can do that. You can leave them kind of wispy. This is a little bit more wispy. And then the last color you're going to introduce is Snow White, and that's going to be pretty bright. So use it sparingly. That was my dog, if you heard that. That wasn't me.
I didn't even hear.
Good.
I mean, yeah.
He kind of grumbled and groaned. I didn't want you to think that was me making those weird noises. And that's pretty much how I made the clouds. Pretty easy. It's just kind of nerve-wracking though when you're like, am I going to place them in the right place? And then once you get going, it's easy. But it's initially, not getting them in the right place would make everything not look good. Okay, get more palette paper out. So we need to shade. The shading really makes a difference on the background. So.
And did you? I wasn't watching. You went ahead and did the Snow White too. Just
yes.
A hint. Okay.
Yes, it didn't really show up that bright, but it just adds a little something extra. So we're going to use Aqua Sky if you have it. I think some of the turquoise colors, if you don't have Aqua Sky, some of the turquoise.
Oh, I didn't pull Aqua Sky. I don't know whether I have that.
Let me see what else there is. Because some of the Whispering Turquoise were, so Crystal Blue is a little too light. Whispering Turquoise is too light. Aqua Sky is perfect if you have it. I think Bahama Blue is almost the same color as Aqua Sky. Do you have Bahama Blue?
I know. I believe I do. I don't know why I don't have Aqua Sky, but let me see.
Bahama Blue is better than turquoise, but if you don't have Bahama Blue or Aqua Sky, then use turquoise. But the Bahama Blue is good.
I do have Bahama Blue.
So that will work. And
okay.
I'm going to use a pretty big shader on this one. So
I do have Aqua. Well, I thought I did.
It doesn't matter which one. Bahama Blue or Aqua Sky is fine.
It was hidden. It was hidden.
Okay. So I'm using a pretty large shading brush on this, and I will increase it on the second round. So we're going to put the bunny butt in place as well. But right now we're going to concentrate on the edge, but we will come back and put the bunny butt in place so that we can add a little shading around it. And of course you don't have to go around the whole circle because you can see that the stone wall's going to be covering quite a bit. I'm not even sure that I redid recording. Hold on a
Oh,
second. But
and I had in my mind to say, don't forget to do that. I'm so sorry.
oh well, that's okay. I'm recording it on the program that I'm using. It's a special software that allows me to use several cameras. So let me just
Recording in progress.
There you go.
So I will be using the recording that I get off of the OBS is the software that I use. It's a free open broadcast service. So I like technology. The more technology, the better. So I use all these fancy softwares.
Yeah. Oh.
So fortunately, I was recording on that.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
Otherwise, people would not get to see how I did the clouds. All right. So that was the first round. I'm going to go ahead and widen that out and reinforce. So I'm using my 3/4 shader here, angle. Yeah, that aqua sky is kind of a misleading color because when it goes on wet, it looks so light, but it dries. It dries a really pretty color and much darker than you think it's going to be. Okay. So it might help if I had glued, well, actually I don't need to glue that. Okay, so I'm going to just put this bunny butt here again, and I'm going to do a similar thing as before. I'm going to, actually I don't need to because I can see my scored line. Never mind, forget about that. So you want to just shade in and around. You don't need to worry too much about the carrots. If you want to put some shading in and around the carrots, you can.
Okay.
But having the shade in and around the bunny butt makes a huge difference in the overall look of this. If you just did the edges, it doesn't look as good as coming back and doing a rough shade around the bunny butt. So again, I'm kind of doing a choppy, imperfect shade, but you can do a perfect one if you want. And I'll kind of dip it in and around the carrots a little bit. Not worried about it being perfect. Although I don't want to mess up the cloud over here, so I'm not going to do much shading around the carrots over here. I don't want to mess that cloud up. And when you're doing this, because the tail, the bunny, and the carrots are going to be covering it up, you can get really messy. You don't have to worry about staying in the lines.
Yeah.
So that little area right there. I think I mostly got everything. Okay. Yeah. I mean, I could go in and fill in a little bit more there, but it's the sky, you know, it's not supposed to be uniform everywhere. So, that's pretty much it on the background. So let's see how these things are looking, because we still have the word to do, which is really, really easy. I made it very simple. So what do these things look like when we start putting them into place? And I probably am not going to actually do the details on the video. I'm just going to kind of walk you through what I did.
Okay.
But we are going to do the word. Okay, where did that little thing go? It goes there. And I'm not gonna glue it together. To me, like gluing it together, I just want to make sure I get everything straight. I don't really want to do that on camera either. I just want to take my time.
I understand.
Yeah.
So when you varnish it, though, you do the final fix first and then the other?
Yes. And some people only use the final fix. They don't have the other. Or like in your situation, too, if you don't have Spectrafix and you brush on. So, like I said, you want to do all the brush on and the spraying. I like to do it before I glue everything together.
Okay. I have them both, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah. So whichever you prefer. So these little guys go like, well, it doesn't really matter. You can mix these up, put them wherever you want. So the other thing that I will do before I glue it all together is I will get one of my markers. You have a marker that you use, correct?
I believe I do.
Yeah.
I know I do somewhere.
So let me get a marker. Okay. So I have various ones. This is the one that Chris Howard uses. I think she has it on like her Amazon site. So, and I'm showing this to for the people who are going to be watching the recording. To clean up all these edges before you glue it, you can go over with one of these permanent markers, a similar one, and just do the edges. So I'm not going to sit here and do all of them.
Oh no,
On the
no, I can't
recording.
blame you.
So, but that's how you do that. All you folks who are watching the recording. So, anyway, it really helps to make it cleaner and nicer of a finish. So, okay, so that's that, and we still have the Hello Spring to do. So we'll do that, and just to get this on the recording, I came back, and it's on the picture that you have on the PDF. I came back with accent dots in some of these strategic places, and if you wanted, you can use accent dots, or you can use rhinestones or some other kind of jewel thing as well. Okay, so we'll set this one aside. My splatter is a lot bigger on the tail this time, but doesn't matter. And so Hello Spring, very, very fast and easy. I made it so it's mostly using sponges. And you can use any of these colors that we introduced, or you can use different ones, like if you wanted to bring in a lavender or some other color, you can do that. But I used vintage pink as the base, and I sponged it on because I love vintage pink. It is like my favorite of those color tones in Americana. So I use it a lot. I'm starting to wonder, I think I'm going to pop these out before. Sometimes if you pop these out before you add paint, because the paint can act like a glue sometimes. So
Definitely, yeah.
So this one's being difficult. So pop it out before we start painting. Oh my goodness, this one's stuck on the P. I don't know why that one is so tough.
Well, that was rough.
Yeah, that's a little tighter. It's got a lot more tabs on it than usual. And you don't need to keep it in this when you're painting either. It's not really going to move around, so I'm going to just take it out. Yeah, Hello came out super easy, but Spring is a challenge. I'm going to have to look at that file and see why it's got so many tabs holding on to it. My goodness. Whew. Okay. I like to send them out in those though because it keeps them from breaking and shipping.
Oh yeah, definitely it does.
Oops. Unfortunately, the text always has a lot more tendency for the tannins to come through. So you can go ahead and spray it. I'm not going to do this now, but it sometimes I'll use the Final Fix and the varnish and really spray it well, and then layer up the color some more.
Okay.
And it helps sometimes on the tannins, but you know, the text definitely wants to leach out. I'm doing everything wrong. My spring flipped over and picked up some of the paint on the bottom there. So that requires 2 to 3, as usual, of sponging. And then if you take cotton candy and a sponge, and I'm not like doing a light source, I'm just doing top is highlight and bottom is the shade, because I'm not trying to make this complicated. So I'm just,
Right.
yeah. So that's a bit of cotton candy.
It's almost like an ombre effect, isn't it?
Yeah. A little bit more like that. And like if it's too bright on top, you know, you can come back and blend the colors a little bit, like come back with more vintage pink. And I think on the cactus flower on the bottom, I think I did use a shading brush for that, an angled brush.
Okay.
You could use a sponge. I think I was just after a little bit more control on where it was going to go, because sometimes with a sponge, it is that cactus flower. That's, wait a second. Okay. Cactus flower does not look like a shading color. Sometimes I wonder.
I didn't know whether you used a coral blush or not.
Maybe that's what it is. I think cactus flower is too light. That is too light. So I think you're right. Coral blush is a little bit, I think it might actually be a typo. I don't know. Okay, for people who are watching the recording, shade with a darker color at the bottom, something darker than vintage pink. A coral blush might work. The new Coral Buzz might work. Anything that's just a little bit darker shade than the vintage pink. And you're just kind of touching it at the bottom, just to give it a little bit of different color. So, and then if you, the cotton candy is pretty light, but you know, if you want to touch in a little bit of warm white or snow white at the top, you can do that. So I'm going to use my angled brush for that, though, just to clean it up a little bit, get a little bit more control. Whereas the sponge kind of goes everywhere. You know, and you can come back with a marker if you want, a brown or a black marker or a white marker, and do some little stitching effects if you want. I did not do that on the one I did, but you know, certainly you could do something like that if you wanted. Actually, I did a little bit with a white pen. So play with that however you want, and let's see how it's looking. Yeah, this original piece just had a big tag on it that said hi, and I don't know, that didn't work for me, so I added in this text. Let me move it out a little bit. Okay. So, like I said, accent dots, spray fix it, varnish it, then glue it together. So I think that's pretty much it.
I can see this on a wreath.
So when you say a wreath, what do you mean by wreath?
A green wreath or a wood wreath.
Oh,
Yeah, to put on the door.
Mm-hmm.
To make it just a little bit larger.
Yes. Well, in fact, what I did originally, because the original size is 10.5 inches, which is what you got. Let me put my face back on here, too. But what I did yesterday when I cut my piece, I thought, you know, these are, I can only go 11.25. I can't go any bigger than that on my machine. I'm trying to get my camera back, but my mouse is once again lost. Okay, there. Come on, mousy. Okay, there we go. So anyway, I went ahead and blew this one up to right at 11, and this one. Okay, this was the original, so that's the 10.5. So this is right at 11, because it is a little small. The 10.5 is a little small, I think.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, but the laser only will do up to the 11.25 if I'm doing a round. So anyway.
Well, I enjoyed it, Kathy.
Well, great. Thank you.
I learned some new stuff, and I hadn't used these sponges, and I like these better than the makeup sponge.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't like them.
Yeah, and with doing all those ornaments that you do, that you'll get a nice effect with these sponges. So
Yes, that's what I'm thinking.
yeah.
And the carrot color, and I haven't used the
That scarlet.
the scarlet and the crackle paste. I never used it, even though I bought it. But
Yeah.
I love it. Love it.
Excellent.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you for joining us today. I say us. But anyway, I really appreciate it. And oh, no.
It fell. But
oh, sweet.
that's okay. I love it. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. You have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'm going to stop the recording now.
Recording stopped.
Excellent.
Bye.
Okay, thanks so much. Bye, Virginia.
Bye.